It's the 18th annual World Series of Poker. Welcome everyone, I'm Ted Robinson to the World Series of Poker, the finals. 4 days ago, 152 players each put down $10,000 of their own money to have a chance to play the World Championship of Poker. 3 days of elimination have ensued, and now we are down to the final 6 players. At the end of today's play, the man left with all the chips will walk away with $625,000. That's as much money as the winning horse in the Kentucky Derby walks away with. He'll also walk away with a 24-karat gold bracelet and the glory and honor of being named the world's best poker player. It's a prestigious event. It's a grueling event. And these 6 men that we'll now have a chance to look at have spent 3 long days to get to this final table. In seat number 1 at the final table is Bob Schiaffoni. He starts the day with $147,000 in chips, a native of Saginaw, Michigan, who has written a book on the rules of playing poker. In seat number 2 is Dan Harrington, a native of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, where he works as a toy designer. He begins this day with $213,000 worth of chips. In seat 3 is Howard Lederer, the youngest player to ever advance to the final table in the World Series of Poker. He is just 23 years of age, a native of New York, where he's a part-time student at Columbia University. In seat 4 is Frank Henderson from Houston, Texas, a mechanical engineer who spent 10 years programming the scoreboard at the Astrodome. Henderson began the round of 24 in 24th place, but survived to make it to the final table. In seat 5 is Jim Spain from Columbus, Mississippi. He's been a serious poker player for 8 years, a home contractor in Mississippi selling security systems. And in seat 6, the man regarded as one of the top poker players in the world, Johnny Chan, a Houstonian by birth, now lives here in Las Vegas. He starts this day with the most chips on the table, $461,000 worth. Now let's get to the action. Dan Harrington bet $16,000. That scares everyone out immediately, except Jim Spain, who calls and raises another $30,000. But Harrington doesn't think long. He calls the 30 and goes all in. That's what poker at this final table is all about. He's making Jim Spain think. And he's made a believer of Spain, who folds, and Harrington wins the pot. The game of Texas Hold'em seems deceptively simple. Originating in Texas in the late 1800s, Hold'em has become the foremost high-stakes poker game in the world. As played in this World Championship tournament, it's a 7-card stud, no-limit game. 2 cards are dealt face down to each player, followed by a round of betting. The next 3 cards are face up in the center of the table, which are called the flop and can be used in common by all players. There's more betting, then a 4th card is dealt, called 4th Street. Another round of betting, and a 5th community card is dealt. After all final bets are complete, the player with the best 5 cards from the combination of the whole cards and the community cards in the center of the table takes the pot. Anyone 21 years of age or over can enter the tournament. All you need is a $10,000 entry fee. Each player gets $10,000 worth of chips to play with. They cannot buy more. This is a freeze-out. Players are out of the game when they lose their chips. The last remaining player wins the tournament and is declared the new World Poker Champion. This year, the champion takes a $625,000 cash prize. The remainder of the money pool will be distributed among the other 35 finalists. It's the next hand, and Dan Harrington's going all in again. Harrington pressing the action here. He needs to build up his stake. The man who'll go in with him is Jim Spain. He calls, and it's another showdown. Harrington throws out an ace-queen. Jim sits with an ace-6 suited. And here comes the flop. A 7-jack-6, and that gives Jim the edge with a pair of 6s. Fourth Street on the way. It's a 3 of spades. That means that Dan now needs a spade or a queen to stay in the game.
Our 500.
And here's 5th Street, a 6, and Jim Spain wins with 3 6s. Dan Harrington's luck is run out, but he still gets $45,000. Jack Strauss was the World Series of Poker champion in 1982. In this year's competition, he's been eliminated rather early, but I got to be honest, you don't seem to be all that upset about it.
No, I'm gonna go to my room and sleep like a baby. Cry an hour and sleep an hour, and cry an hour and sleep an hour.
We're continuing with one of the most grueling sporting events of the year, the 18th annual World Series of Poker, and we'll return right after these messages. We're back with more action at the World Series of Poker. There are now 5 players remaining at the final table. The worst anyone can do here is walk away with $52,000. That's the 5th place prize. 4th place gets $75,000. 3rd place, $125,000. The runner-up wins $250,000, and the new champion, a whopping $625,000. And sitting here with us now is a man who is known in the poker world, a world of colorful nicknames, as Austin Squatty. He is known in the rest of the world as John Jenkins from Austin, Texas. John, welcome. What's the point in your mind at which players will begin to be aggressive?
As soon as any situation arises where everyone has got plenty of playing chips, as long as someone's on low money, there's a tendency to wait and see if he'll bust out. But as they develop into enough chips to maneuver with, then you'll start seeing the real action go. At some point, they're going to fight to win.
Bob Schiaffoni, the journalist who writes about poker, gets the action going with a $30,000 bet. Howard, Frank, and Johnny Chan are all folding, but Jim Spain looks like he'll call, which he does. So 2 are in, and now it's time for the flop. Jim checks. Bob Schiaffoni reaching is going to add. Schiaffoni puts another $30,000 out. Jim calls, and he's raising $25,000. Now Schiaffoni thinking, considering that this might be a big bet. He'll call, and he's reaching for more. He may be going all in, and he is. Schiaffoni will push all his chips in for a total of $85,000. Jim Spain decides he's not bluffing and folds. One of the interesting stories of this year's World Series of Poker is Howard Lederer, who we told you earlier is the youngest player to ever reach the final table. And we asked him before today's play started how it feels to be here.
It's very exciting. I never expected to be here, and I'm just going to take my shot today and see if I can make a big score, win it all.
Even in a sport where you need some confidence, you didn't have an anticipation that you might be able to do this?
I certainly felt that at some point in my poker career I'd get to the final table, but certainly in my first effort, this is the first time I've entered the big tournaments. I didn't expect to get this far. I thought this would be a learning experience. I'd get to the final table late, like 5 years from now, 3 years from now, but certainly not my first try.
Gentleman sitting next to me, I thought we would all see at the final table here today at the World Series of Poker. Doyle, Texas, Dolly Brunson, a 2-time world champion, though, was eliminated on the first day. Gentlemen, did you ever think you'd see the day when a 23-year-old would sit here at this final table?
No, I really didn't. Times are really changing with the poker players, and it's a tribute to these young guys, how good they play at such an early age.
Is it an advantage at all for Howard Lederer to be a relative unknown here that the other players may not know much about?
Well, I think it definitely is, and I think that maybe he's the unknown factor in the game, and I think that he'll be a contender. In fact, I believe he'll be second. I believe Johnny Chan will win. I believe that Howard will be second.
Here we have Howard making a $15,000 bet. He seems very confident about this hand. Others toss in, but it looks like Bob Schiaffoni, yes, Schiaffoni is going to jump in and go all in, trying to intimidate Howard Lederer. But it may not work. Howard is going to call, and Howard Lederer may go. Yes, he will. All in, all before the flop. And there are the hands. An ace-6 for Howard, a pair of 9s for Bob. The flop is queen 9-5, and that gives Schiaffoni the lead right now with 3 9s. 4th Street coming. That's a 7. It gives Howard a possible straight. He needs an 8 to stay in the game. And there's 5th Street, another 9, 4 9s for Bob Schiaffoni, and someone is watching over him tonight. Well, we'll see much more of Howard Lederer in future years. You can bet on that. For this World Series of Poker, he wins $52,000. This championship game began 4 days ago with 152 players, each putting up $10,000. They filled this tournament area to capacity. They were all here, every legendary gambler from Young Turks like two-time champion Stu the Kid Unger to the grand old man of poker, Johnny Moss, the only man to win the title 3 times. The opening ritual has become as traditional to the world of poker as the call "Gentlemen, Start Your Engines" is to the Indianapolis 500. Tournament host Jack Binion personally welcomes and introduces each player by name. And they acknowledge the greetings with the cool nonchalance of the professional athlete. Doyle, Texas Dolly Brunson, another two-time champ. Chip Reese, a Dartmouth-educated player whose mathematical approach to poker has raised the game to new levels of sophistication. Jack Treetop Strauss, Dodie Roach, wealthy oil man Pete Knowles, who flies his own plane to the game. Jesse Alto, Gene Fisher, Cowboy Wolford, they're all part of the Texas bunch that dominated the game for so many years. Little Slim Preston is a former world champion. He's played in all 18 World Series of Pokers and is perhaps the most recognizable card player in the world. What keeps you coming back?
Well, I enjoy this, man. This is home for me. We started this 100 years ago, and I enjoy it.
Now, when all 153 players are being introduced, it seems like a lot of people are a little tense and nervous. Does this bother you, this waiting to get going?
No, man, it doesn't anything bother me. I don't care if we start tomorrow or midnight or right out there in the middle of that hot stuff. It's all right with me. I'm ready.
Telly Lollipop Savalas and Gabe Kaplan represent the Hollywood pack. Defending champ Barry Johnston from Oklahoma City. Bobby Baldwin, another Oklahoman who won the title in 1978 and is now president of the Golden Nugget Hotel. What has changed over the years in the types of people that you see who come here and put up their own money to play?
Well, I think what's changed the most over the last 15 years is the fact that it began with a small group of Texans or Southern type players, 6, 8, 10, 12 players a year. And now it's evolved into an international event. So there's a contingency of players from England, Ireland, Africa, so it's expanded considerably.
Wendine Eolas, one of only 2 women in the game and the only woman to ever land in the money. Barbara Gold is the other woman who dared to invade what has long been regarded as man's turf. And then came the call all players had anxiously been waiting for.
Okay, man, you ready? Let's go. Double up and deep.
They dropped off like flies that first day. Casualties included professional and amateurs alike, some of whom were considered to have good chances to reach the final table. Not everyone at the World Series of Poker is a professional gambler. There are those here who are businessmen who pursue this as a hobby, albeit I think somewhat seriously. And Lyle Berman from Minneapolis, a businessman, has just been eliminated. How serious a hobby is this for you, Lyle?
Well, anytime you put up $10,000 to enter a tournament, you can be sure it's real serious.
So is it disappointing to be eliminated rather early?
I can't think of anything more disappointing. It happens once a year. You wait for it to come, and to get knocked out early in the tournament you feel real sad.
Each player received equal attention during those first moments. Survival, money management, and luck were the operative words. We asked Doyle Brunson how important strategy and skill are when the game begins.
You're limited in the amount of chips that you have, so you're limited in the things that you can do. And until you get some chips, you just have to try to show the best hand, and I couldn't do it today.
I'm seeming to hear that a lot of the better players tend to play conservatively here at the beginning, trying to outlast the folks. Is that the way you approached it today as well?
Well, that's what I tried to, but I just sat there, for so long, and I finally made a pair and lost all my chips with them.
Bravado, declarations of talent and skill may grab attention in the early stages, but it was inevitable that new stars would emerge by game's end. Back to the final table where we are down to 4. Johnny Chan has a slight lead over Bob Schiaffoni. Jim Spain is a distant third. And Frank Henderson somehow manages to survive with the $100,000. Just 2 days ago, when the field was cut to 24 players, Frank Henderson was in last place. He's been there ever since. We asked him earlier today to share with us his strategy for survival.
Well,
I guess it's a little fortunate and a little ray of good luck. I had 8,400 when we started yesterday morning, and it was costing $4,200 a round of the cards. So you can see I had enough chips to last for 2 rounds of the cards. After about the third hand, I looked down and found an ace, and that was good enough for me. So I moved in 7,500 and got called by Johnny Chan and Bobby Baldwin both. And fortunately, the fall come 5-5 jack, and my off card was a 5. I turned 3 5s, and I won that pot, which gave me a little over 24,000. And then I settled back and started taking dead aim and just, picking my spots.
Now here's Frank going all in again. He's bet his entire $100,000. Bob Ciaffoni thinking and putting chips out. Ciaffoni will apparently call the bet. He does. The hole cards come up. Frank with an ace-10, Bob a king-jack. The flop is 9-king-ace, giving Frank the edge. Here comes 4th Street. That's a 4, which doesn't help either player. So Bob now needs a king or jack desperately. 5th Street comes up at 10, and Frank survives again with pairs of aces and 10s.
We're continuing with one of the most grueling sporting events of the year, the 18th Annual World Series of Poker, and we'll return right after these messages.
Now on to the next deal. Jim Spain folds. Johnny Chan will bet $35,000. Bob Ciaffoni folds, but Frank Henderson will go all in again. Frank the aggressor pressing to build his stake here. The hole cards come out. Frank has a king-queen, Chan an 8-6. The flop is a 6-jack-10. That gives Frank the favorites roll with an open-end straight to draw to. Chan's pair of 6s don't appear to be worth much. 4th Street doesn't help for either player. Frank now needs a 9-ace, king or queen to win. 5th Street, the final card on the way. And Frank makes it a king for a big pair. It's amazing how Frank Henderson survives. The tension building here at the final table as we're down to 4 players. The leader is Johnny Chan. Bob Ciaffoni is second. Jim Spain is hanging tough in third. And the miracle worker Frank Henderson surviving in 4th place. Jim Spain is sitting at the final table for the first time. A private businessman from Columbus, Mississippi. Before today's play began, we asked Jim to compare playing in this World Championship to other sports championships.
When I was going to high school, I played a little football, and I like sports, and baseball, basketball. But when I was a kid, because they didn't have the World Series of Poker, but if they had it at that time, and later on in life, if I had an opportunity to play in either the baseball World Series or the Super Bowl of football or the World Series of Poker, I would have quickly taken the World Series of Poker. So I'm where I want to be.
Okay, Jim Spain bets $30,000. Johnny Chan is going to raise, and Chan makes it $80,000. Jim thinking with a dwindling supply of chips, but he will call and raise with his remaining $1,000 chip. Jim Spain is now all in. The cards now will come out from the hole. Jim has a king-7 of diamonds, Chan an ace-jack of diamonds. The flop is a 4-5 deuce. Chan needs any diamond or a 3. And 4th Street gives Chan his ace-high diamond flush, and it's all over for Jim Spain. He can kiss the championship goodbye and be satisfied with 4th place and $75,000 in cash. The tension on this final table will be added right now as Jack Binion comes along with the traditional dumping of the prize money, $1.5 million. And we asked Jack what effect he thinks having this money in full view will have on the players involved.
At this point, they're not even concerned about that. They're just concerned about the game and the playing. And in some past years, we've actually let them play with the cash, in bundles. And when you see a big stack of money out there, then it becomes reality to you. I've often thought if we didn't have checks, right at the bank, just currency, how the economy would slow down because it means so much
you see what money really looks like then, and it slows you down a little bit.
One of the players that has a reputation as a serious and conservative poker player is the man currently in second place, Bob Schiavone. And I asked him before today's play how the pressure of being at the final table will affect him.
I think most of us, probably all of us, have a background of playing in competitive events, poker and other games. I've played in hundreds of tournaments in my life. I am a games player. I play chess, backgammon, bridge, and other games, and I know what it's like to participate. Certainly not on this level, but just the idea of participating. And it's sort of like a golfer. When he has to make a 4-foot putt, he's made a lot of 4-foot putts in his life. He doesn't think and say, well, if I make this putt, I win the tournament. He just says, oh, I got a 4-foot putt. I can make it.
And then there were three. The caliber of play has been superior. The bet's astronomical. Johnny Chan here throws in his card. But Bob Schiavone will bet $30,000. Frank Henderson calls. The flop falls, revealing Ace-Jack 4. But Bob will bet again. And Frank calls. Fourth street's the 3 of hearts. And Bob bets quickly. Frank now decides, is Bob Schiavone bluffing? This time Frank figures Schiavone's not bluffing, and he folds. Schiavone's now taken over the lead, moving past Johnny Chan. Jack, how do people become high-stakes poker players?
They, by osmosis, they just gradually grow into it. In other words, you start out just like anything else. Let's take Dewey, for example. Dewey Tomko was a kindergarten teacher, and he played in little bitty games, and he got playing bigger and bigger games, and pretty soon he's playing in games that he's getting decisions as much as his yearly salary every night playing for teaching school. In fact, he'd tell a cute story. He was a kindergarten teacher, so they had to they would take, how little kids take a nap, and a couple of times he would lay down and take a nap with them, and it'd be dark and all the kids had gone home by the time he woke up.
Binion's Horseshoe here in Las Vegas is also home for the Poker Hall of Fame, chosen by a committee every year that examines 5 criteria to determine the inductee. The person must have played against world-class competition, must have played for high stakes, must have played well, must enjoy the respect of his peers, and the person must have stood the test of time doing it year after year. This year, the 15th inductee of the Poker Hall of Fame is joining us, only the 3rd person to be inducted while still living. And he is Puggy Pearson, the 1973 Poker World Champion. Puggy, congratulations on the honor.
Thank you, Ted.
What does it mean to you to be a Hall of Fame poker player?
Well, probably means I get to meet a lot more suckers for one thing. But then I know just about all these people up here, and I'm real happy and pleased to be associated. And I'm thankful to all my fan clubs from all my poker playing buddies, to elect me into this.
There's a lot of young people coming in to play in this World Series, especially this year, Arthur.
Yes, there is. There's more and more young people coming along, and the young people are the people that you have to, this computer age, you have to worry about them, All
right, Pug, you want to show everybody your picture here. That's a beauty, huh?
Yeah, it really is. I wish I had some hair.
Puggy Pearson, and this will be the place that he will assume on the wall here at Binion's Horseshoe as the newest inductee of the Poker Hall of Fame.
And congratulations to Puggy Pearson on a well-deserved honor. Now we're back at the game, and Johnny Chan folds. Bob Schiavone will make a big bet, $50,000. Frank Henderson, though, will call. The dealer flops 2 kings and a 5, and that gives Frank 2 pairs and is no help to Bob Schiavone. And now we're beginning to see how cautious the players are becoming as both check. 4th street comes, that's a queen, which neither player can use. Bob checks. Frank thinking, and he checks as well. So here comes 5th street. It's a jack. That's going to give Frank the hand as both players check, and Frank wins with 2 little 5s and continues to survive as we're down to 3 at the final table. The least known or understood player at this final table is the man they call the Orient Express, Johnny Chan. We asked him what winning the tournament would mean to him.
Oh, it means biggest day of my life.
Is it the glory more than the money?
I took the money.
All right, that's honesty from Johnny Chan.
Well, the mood is getting heavy. The players seem to be getting down to business more seriously. Bob Ciaffoni bets, Frank calls, and so will Johnny. The flop comes up 7 ace 5. They both have pairs now. Bob bets and Frank tosses the cards in, and Chan calls. 4th Street is of no help to either. And here's Bob reaching in for a modest bet. Is he bluffing? And Chan will call. Interesting. Chan has been very cautious in his betting thus far. And 5th Street pairs the 5 on the board and makes it a split pot.
We're down to 3 players in the final table here at the World Series of Poker, and sitting with me is Tom McAvoy, 1983 World Series of Poker champ, and the 5th winningest money winner in the history of this tournament. And Tom, this has developed into an interesting day with not as much aggressiveness or action, I think, as some of us expected.
No, it's been pretty much a cat and mouse game for quite some time. Frank Henderson in the middle there has been all in a number of times and survived. Twice he drew out in the last card to make the winning hand. Right now, the most aggressive player is Bob Ciaffoni, which is a surprise because Johnny Chan is recognized as one of the most aggressive high-stakes players in the world, has won numerous poker championships, and of course wants to add this title to his collection of wins. But Ciaffoni has been the one that's been the most aggressive and the most dominating right now.
As we go back to the table, Bob may temper that aggressiveness somewhat. In fact, Bob looking at his cards on this hand, and he throws them in. He'll fold. Frank Henderson doesn't. He bets 40,000, and Johnny Chan calls. There's the flop. And that's good enough for Frank, and Frank is going to go all in once again. Frank Henderson goes all in, and Johnny Chan folds his cards. Frank tosses out a king and a 9. It means he had nothing. A classic bluff, pure and simple. Now Frank Henderson throws in his cards as we get back to the table. Johnny Chan makes a small bet. Bob Ciaffoni will check and choose not to raise. The flop comes up 6-7 jack, and Bob is going to make a small bet. Johnny Chan may sense the kill here, and he puts in a big stack. $115,000 is the raise for Johnny Chan. If Bob wants to keep playing, he may have to push all in here, and he's making that decision, and he may be doing it. Johnny Chan is ready, and he will call as Ciaffoni goes all in. So Bob Ciaffoni, who was leading just a short while ago, has gone all in on this hand with Johnny Chan. Bob turns over a 5-7 of spades. Johnny Chan has the ace-jack of diamonds. 4th Street gives Ciaffoni 2 pairs, 5s and 7s. It's on the line here for Bob Ciaffoni. Johnny Chan, if it comes up an ace, will be the winner, and 5th Street is an ace, and Johnny Chan wins with aces and jacks, eliminating Bob Ciaffoni, who a short while ago had taken the lead. Bob Ciaffoni leaves with 3rd place, a check for $125,000. He'll give him a lot to write about in his newspaper column. Poker players are not known to be the best physical specimens, yet their game, especially during the World Series of Poker, is very demanding both mentally and physically. The players battle for days at a time, not just hours. High stakes and tournament poker becomes a test of skill and physical endurance. According to some of the better players, talent alone is not good enough. Many of them follow a specific conditioning program designed to keep them mentally and physically alert throughout the tournament. Puggy Pearson, a former Navy frogman, swims laps in his home pool before the start of the tournament each day.
Now, if your head's got other things to worry about besides what you're doing, in other words, if your ticker's bad, something's bad about your body, it's going to take away from your brain.
Jesse Alto, the automobile dealer from Houston, can be found jogging the streets of Las Vegas every morning.
Well, I got to get my mind set, and that takes a little physical conditioning. which is work out at the gym or run or go to the golf course, hit a few balls, and just stay fit.
Sven Arntzen, who represented Norway in the Olympics, keeps in shape in the Golden Nuggets closely supervised and well-equipped exercise room.
Feel tired maybe, but you may do those small slips that you shouldn't do because you're a little tired. And being in good physical condition helps.
Johnny Chan is in the final two at the final table of the World Series of Poker. Did you think you were going to get that ace on 5th Street, Johnny?
That's what I was pulling for, ace or jag or 6, that would do it, but unfortunately I got the ace, that was good enough.
What has been your strategy today?
Play slow, play tight.
And why did you decide? You've gone in big twice now in the last hour or so. What prompted you to do that?
Catch good hands.
Is that it? You were just waiting for good
That's
down
what
cards?
I was waiting for all this time, all day actually.
Were you surprised that Bob called you both times?
Yes.
Considering the hands that he had?
Yeah, the hand that he called me with, I would never call anybody with those kind of hands anyway.
All right, now with 6 times the chips of the Frank here going into the final two. Tough situation for Frank?
Frank's a good short stack player. He had short stack all the way through the tournament since yesterday. So he had the opportunity.
Okay, Johnny, thank you and good luck.
Thank you.
And Frank is going to stand in here. Frank Henderson, you and Johnny, both from Houston, you know each other, don't you?
Right, we're good friends, and we play from time to time in Houston, private games in Houston.
Said you have to feel like Lazarus because probably a lot of people counted you out a few times here today.
Oh, many times. It's been a struggle, but now it's down to 2 of us, and it's going to be fast. I win a couple of hands, I got $500,000, and otherwise it's going to be over with.
All right, Frank, good luck to you.
All right, thank you.
Frank Henderson. The final table's now down to 2. It's Johnny Chan and Frank Henderson, the 3rd place finisher who won $125,000 and made things awfully exciting for us here today, Bob Schiaffoni. Bob, congratulations, first of all.
Thank you very much.
It was exciting. What prompted you to go in those 2 big pots against Johnny Chan?
The first pot I played with him where there was over $1 million in the pot, I was trying, in a sense, to steal the pot when I bet $200,000, but when he called and raised me all in, we came to a point where, even though I knew what he had, I had to call him. I could catch an ace or a 4 and draw out on him, and the chip situation was such that if I threw the hand away, it would leave me with a very poor chance for first place, which is what I was playing for, and so I decided to go ahead and put the money in. The money, as I remember it, was approximately the right odds for me to go ahead and call, where you could flip a coin for me to call or fold. Even if he turned his hand face up, I would have done the same thing.
It's coming from a mathematician, right?
Yes.
So you know that. Okay, what are we looking at here now once we're down to the final 2?
We have a heads-up battle here between 2 players, both seasoned professionals who are quite experienced at heads-up play. I don't know how much they've played against each other, but they have played in money and tournaments heads-up many times. And the thing about heads-up play is you're going to see hands that are a lot less in rank, lower in rank than you would see when there's 8 or 9 or even 6 players in the game. If you just have one pair and it's the highest pair on the board, you have a very good hand, and that might well be the decisive hand.
Frank checks, Johnny checks. Frank steps 10s and 8s with a king. Frank wins the pot.
So Frank Henderson winning that pot. These 2 remaining players are very representative of poker players in general today. Chan is in his late 20s, while Henderson represents the old crowd. He's in his 50s. Some, like Chan, approach the game scientifically. They play strictly for the money. Others, though, play what is known as guts poker. They know intuitively what makes a good hand. Most of these will tell you the title's more important. It takes a lot of practice for either kind of player to become a world-class player. Although these men have other professions or businesses, you can be sure they spend a lot of time at the green baize covered tables. Every hand is critical now because Henderson can easily be knocked out of the game with one hand. Now, Johnny, you'll notice, remains cool and calculating. He can afford to play the waiting game. A pot now that's over $100,000.
Frank simply trying to snap off some small pots in the hopes that he could bankroll a big one later. And as the cards get tossed in, Frank Henderson will win another pot. Chan seems to be settling in for the long haul. He calls small bets in the hopes of catching Frank in a weak moment or making a mistake. Frank, on the other hand, is happy grabbing off any small pot he can in the hopes of building up that bankroll for a big kill later. It takes patience and concentration, neither of which is easy after 4 days of tension-filled action. But these are top players. They know what's expected of them, and after 4 days, they're ready to go the distance. Both players check on 5th Street, and Frank grabs another pot.
Two players remain here on the final table of the World Series of Poker, Johnny Chan and Frank Henderson. And with me now is Eric Drake, who for 13 years has been the tournament director at Binion's Horseshoe for the World Series of Poker. Now, Eric, when does Frank is about 200,000, a little bit over 200,000. When does he get to a point when he has to make a move, an aggressive move?
Well, put it this way. It's interesting. The worst he can do is finish second, obviously. There's only 2 people left. So he knows that he is free rolling to try to win the tournament. He's going to what he's going to hope to do is get lucky or have the best hand on Johnny, win a pot, and then win another one right after that, and then he'll become the favorite. We're playing such high stakes right now that whoever wins, if Frank happens to win 2 pots in a row, he'll be the favorite to win it. If Johnny wins 1 pot, he'll win it. So Johnny's at least a 2-to-1 favorite at this point.
Quickly, what's been the tensest moment in the tournament thus far?
Well, I'll tell you, one of the tensest moment was, I feel, when Bob Schifoni and John Chan played $1,100,000 pot. It was clear that whoever won that pot was going to become an overwhelming favorite to be the next world champion, and along with it, $625,000.
Back to the table where Johnny Chan and Frank Henderson continue in the battle for the World Series of Poker Championship. Johnny has more than $1,200,000 in front of him. Frank has the remaining $300,000. And 2 good hands could turn things around very quickly here. Johnny makes a bet that will be $30,000. Frank calls. Now the flop may be good enough for Frank to go in big. And yes, it is. Frank makes the move, and he is going all in. People poising around the table here at Binion's Horseshoe, sensing the possibility that this could be the championship. Frank is being aggressive. He's trying to intimidate Johnny, and it works. Frank Henderson wins again to stay alive. And one of the people crowding the table here at Binion's Horseshoe, Frank's wife Mary Jane, obviously approves. Frank has been so close to losing throughout this entire tournament. He's been on edge the entire time. You might expect him to have developed a fatalistic attitude about the game. But now he sits at the final table staring eye to eye with Johnny Chan, the man that many have called the favorite in this World Series of Poker. Here comes the flop on this hand. It's a deuce, 4, and jack. 2 checks, and 4th Street pairs the 4. And 5th Street is a queen of hearts. Now Frank will make a small bet, about $30,000. Johnny Chan thinks, shuffles the chips, and then decides to go in, and Johnny has a queen underneath, so he paired queens to win the hand. But the action could continue this way back and forth for hours. This is probably the only major sporting event where pros and amateurs compete on an even standing. The pros may have the edge, but each year a growing number of amateurs are landing at the last table. Now, although both of these men play a lot of poker, neither man has ever been at the final table of the World Series. Many people expected Johnny Chan to be here. Not many expected Frank. Frank himself may have had some doubts throughout the 4 days. Frank making a small bet. Johnny calls. Fourth Street coming out. If Johnny decides to put a big stack out there, Frank is going to have to make a decision. based on the hand that he has. Now 5th Street. And there goes Johnny reaching for one of those stacks. That's over $100,000, and Frank will have to make a decision, and he's already making it. Tosses the cards in, and Frank folds. Well, this might be it. We may be heading to a showdown for the final table of the World Series of Poker. Johnny Chan and Frank Henderson. Frank has not made much of a dent in the last several hands on Johnny's large stack. Now Johnny raises the opening bet here. Frank taking a look. And Frank's making a move. Frank Henderson may be making his move here as he is going all in. And that gets the attention of everyone crowded around this final table at Binion's Horseshoe. Frank Henderson has gone all in. And that gets Johnny Chan up on his feet. If Frank can somehow pull this hand out, he'd be right back in it. The cards turn up. Johnny has an ace-9, a very strong hand. Frank has a pair of 4s, also good. The flop doesn't help anyone. Here comes 4th Street. That's a 10, which is no good either. Now, Johnny Chan needs a 9 here to win. That would be a miracle. And 5th Street is coming. And it's a 9, and Johnny Chan has done it. For the second time in this World Series, he's pulled the card he needed on 5th Street. And Johnny Chan is the new World Poker Champion.
We'll return right after these messages. Second place finisher Frank Henderson and wife Mary Jane. Listen, I want you to handle my money. You turned $8,400 into $250,000 real fast. Frank, are you as pleased as you've ever been with yourself in a poker tournament?
I think so. I think I played well for the cards that I held, and I didn't make any bad plays. I mean, I'm not ashamed of any plays that I made during the tournament.
What do you think, Mary Jane? Is he telling the truth?
He's telling the truth. I think it's wonderful.
And have you decided what you're going to do with the money yet?
Save it.
You agree with that?
Right. Should have some spots for it.
Frank, congratulations.
Okay.
Frank Henderson, second place finisher at the World Series of Poker. Well, Johnny Chan has won the 1987 World Series of Poker, the 18th annual, as the champion, and for the second time you won a big pot today with that 5th Street pull, Johnny.
Lucky 5th Street.
What does it feel like?
It feels like a miracle.
Was it tough to play as the favorite? Most everyone came in today said Johnny Chan was the man to beat.
No, I was a little nervous, but I was calm all the way through the tournament.
What's it like to look across the table there and see all that cash that you're going to take home?
Oh, I'll probably go to a crab table or baccarat. And
was this a goal for you in your poker playing career?
Sure is.
Well, what do you think you'll do tonight?
Have a nice dinner and go sleep.
Tired? Is the 4 days taking its toll on you?
Sure is. Waste a lot of energy, but it's worth it though.
All right, Johnny, thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you, Ted.
We called it the most grueling sports event of the year. It may very well have been. And after 4 days of poker playing, Johnny Chan is the champion of the 18th Annual World Series of Poker. Thanks for being with us from Binion's Horseshoe in Las Vegas, Nevada. I'm Ted Robinson. So long, everybody.